Alright, so in this segment of the anatomy videos, we will be going over the skeletal system and the major bones and the bony landmarks that are found on the bones. Okay, so what I'd first like to do is just give a general overview of the entire skeletal system, and then we'll look at the major parts separately from one another. Okay, now the skeletal system contains about 206 bones on average per person, but that can vary from person to person. Sometimes an individual can be born with an extra digit on their hand or an extra digit on their, on their feet. Sometimes people have an extra rib or could be missing a rib, and every now and then it's pretty common for someone to be born with an extra lumbar vertebrae. So there can be, that number can vary from time to time, but on average humans have 206 bones. Now, the skeleton can be broken down into two major regions, what's called the axial skeleton and the appendicular skeleton. Okay, when we're talking about the axial skeleton, we're talking about the axis, or the center point of the skeleton itself. And so basically everything that's centrally located on this would be considered the axial skeleton. Okay, so the skull, the vertebral column, okay, the rib cage. Alright, so that would be the axial skeleton. Okay, now, the axial skeleton is important because this is where we store and house our very vital organs. Okay, the axial skeleton is where we store and protect the brain, the spinal cord, okay, and plus, we have our lungs and our heart stored within here as well. Okay, and these bones are very, very good at protecting these very soft yet major organs of the human body. Okay, now the appendicular skeleton is comprised of what we call the girdles of the body. What the girdles are, these are points of attachments for your limbs. Okay, so first we have what's called the pectoral girdle. This is located around the pectoral region. Now this contains two bones. The pectoral girdle contains two separate bones. Your clavicle on the anterior side and your scapula on the posterior side. Okay, and then your limb itself would be part of the appendicular skeleton as well. So your arm, your forearm, and then your carpal regions and your phalanges, your digits. Okay, and then in the lower portion of the body, you have what's called the pelvic girdle. Okay, so you have your pelvis, which is comprised of your os coxae, or your pelvic bones, and your sacrum on the posterior side. Okay, and then these serve as a point of attachment for your lower appendages, such as your femur, which is your thigh, your tibia and fibula, which is your leg, and then your ankle bones, and then your digits down in your toes. Okay, so this is a major overview of how the skeleton itself is organized. Now, as you can also see, you see a wide variety of shapes amongst these bones. Okay, you see, the ribs here and the bones of the cranium are flat. Okay, so these are flat bones. These bones of our appendages, these are very long, so we would call them long bones. Okay, your kneecap here, this is a unique type of bone, or your patella, it's called a sesamoid bone. Sesamoid bones are found in areas where there are lots of tendons and connective tissues, so these bones are embedded within them. And what they do is they help to reduce some friction on the tendons when the movement is being created, and then plus they help guide these tendons along when there's movement. And then we have irregular bones, okay, which would be the goofy looking bones such as your vertebrae, your facial bones. Okay, so this is a general overview of the entire skeleton. Now let's take a look at some individual areas or some individual bones themselves and talk about the various landmarks that's within them.